stiffed that guy the other night.
Oh, he never showed up?
Nah, he just called and said, nah, I don't want to come.
Did he at least send the deposit back?
Of course not. Are you kidding me?
It's like the first class flight down the drain.
Yep, that's it. So now he can use that ticket to fly somewhere else to do a comic convention where he has to fly himself, and then he doesn't have to pay for the ticket anymore. It's a good gimmick, you know. Cancel guys and keep their plane ticket. Good gimmick.
Yeah.
Okay, Dev, I'm ready.
All right. So when you're talking about me, can you refer to me by my real name in this?
It's Devon.
Can
Devon.
you hear me?
Yeah, Devon.
Yeah. Okay, so what do you think of Devon Nicholson as a wrestler?
What I think is Devon Nicholson as a wrestler, he is extremely good, very good in the ring. Fast, agile, great athlete, big, and moves very good for a big guy.
And if my WWE contract had gone through, do you think I would have done well in WWE?
If Devon's contract had come through with WWE, I think he would have done very well there because he brings a lot to the table. Being a big guy, which is, you know, by today's standards, there's not a lot of guys that can work with some of the bigger guys they have there. And I think his Devon's style of work and what the way he works and of course his wrestling ability and some of the shooting style stuff that he can do would work very well there.
The video of Abdullah cutting me, and I just want your reaction to it. Is it appropriate that he cut me in the match in this day and age? Everyone knows and all this. So anyway, just watch the video and just give us your reaction.
You just press on the trackpad, it should play.
It's playing now, Devon.
Okay. Yes, I am, and I see Abdullah the Butcher, and he's obviously raking his forehead and his the top of his head and cutting himself, which you know he quite frequently did, which was every match. And now I see, yeah. Now he's taking whatever he was using on his head, and he's pounding Devon's head with the cutting instrument that whatever he was using. So, and if obviously Devon was not aware it was going to happen, but it's not the first time that somebody like Abdullah has done this. It's totally uncalled for, and not necessary, especially if a fella doesn't know this is going on. But I've seen Abdullah do this before, and he actually did it to a ring announcer in Chattanooga, Tennessee one time. A fella. He went to the ring, and the guy was making the announcement, and Abdullah takes the whatever he had taped on his fingers and sliced this guy across the head, and for no reason. And the guy was literally in tears and was deathly afraid, and was afraid from then on of even being around the wrestlers. So, to do something like that's absolutely unnecessary. I mean, if a guy wants to desecrate his own flesh, and let him do it, but you shouldn't take advantage of someone else that way.
And why do you think he even does it? Is it just to get himself over more? Like, what do you think his reason is?
Well, there was a lot of guys in our business that they didn't have what Superstar Graham has probably already said, or you might have some tape of him and I talking. They didn't have that charisma, that it factor, that thing of being able to control a crowd's emotions with their body actions, or with the talk that they talked, or the way that they walked, or the way that they stood, or the way they posed. Then there were some guys who came along who figured, well, if I slice up my head, or I slice up my arms, or I've even seen guys slice up their ears, if I do that, then I can get a crowd reaction, and promoters will book me more because the people will really get into this. But that's not the fact, and it's not. I don't think it has ever been the fact. It's always been, to me, the bleeding and everything has been it's a shortcut. It's a way to mask your inabilities to actually go out and work on a crowd and work the crowd into wherever you want them. And you should be able to do that without any of that kind of outside stuff at all.
Okay, and WWE is now putting Abdullah in the Hall of Fame, and they have a no-blood policy just because of stuff like hepatitis C stuff being spread by bloody matches. So do you think it's hypocritical that WWE is putting a guy like Abdullah in the Hall of Fame that is only known for his bloody matches and hasn't even wrestled in the WWE?
Well, with WWE putting Abdullah the Butcher into the Hall of Fame and their hypocrisy now on the no blood policy and their PG rating and things of that nature, they when they put a limo driver in the Hall of Fame, I don't consider that a Hall of Fame anymore. When they put a baseball player in or somebody like that or a Hollywood movie star and put them in the Hall of Fame, it's like, well, that's not really a Hall of Fame. It becomes just a TV show, or it becomes just a show that they sell tickets to the people. I know I was there for the induction of Coco Beware in Houston, and they'd sold like 16,000 tickets at $30 a head. So it was a money-making deal as opposed to a Hall of Fame. But back to the hypocrisy, I don't know what kind of footage they can show on Abdullah that he's not all bloody and bleeding everywhere. I don't know where they're going to find that footage. He was obviously, they're going to have to find something when he was like 15 or 16 years old. That's to me, that's the only one, that part of the show that I would want to see about their Hall of Fame induction is how they're going to induct him without showing him bleeding all over the place. And God bless the guy, but and he did a lot of it too. And Abdullah kind of took over from this fella King Curtis, and King passed away not so long ago. Great guy, great person, but toward the end of his career and mid part of his career, he became the Abdullah, just with the blood everywhere and doing those things. And I'm sure it creates havoc for the fans, and they the kids scream and yell, but the WWE's it's very, and this, like you mentioned about this hepatitis stuff, I don't want anybody bleeding on me anymore. The NFL, the NBA, the hockey league and everything, they have gotten really, and even I was watching the NCAA basketball thing, and some kid fell on the court and when his elbow hit the thing and he was bleeding, so they took him right out of the game. They cleaned it up, they put the bandage on it, sent it back, and he went out. The bandage came off, and go back there, you're out. You get out of the game. It's something that's not needed anymore. It's not necessary. We all put ourselves at risk every time that we, and I'm as guilty as anybody else. I'm not going to sit here and be a hypocrite. I've done it to myself. I got the scars on my arm right there, and the scars on my head, and someone else did it to me. But it was something that we were programmed to think that we should do, and for some unknown reason we followed along with that program. Now that I'm older and much wiser, I don't go with that program anymore. If anyone even says, I don't even want to go into the ring or fall down on a mat where somebody's been bleeding. These mats are dirty and nasty. They never clean them. Not even the WWE. I don't know that they go and clean. They will have a new one for WrestleMania, but on a day-to-day basis, they don't go clean those things every day. And now you got people bleeding. The only way that the WWE no blood policy is only for television. But when they have a pay-per-view where it's not on their regular TV show, then they still have the blood. They still do it too. And why, I don't know. And maybe even Vince McMahon I've seen him with the blood on him. But would he go in there right now with Abdullah and say, come on, Abdullah, let's you and I have a match and you bleed all over me? Would he do that knowing what the health risk might be, that he could lose his company, he could lose his life because of a hepatitis that's going? and it's always been around. I was telling Superstar Graham earlier that Jimmy Valiant was bleeding all over everybody, and we was all bleeding in Memphis. Memphis was a blood territory. It was built on blood, and Jimmy was all yellow and had gotten his hepatitis, and the health department had come there and to try to get him, and he had left and took off and was gone back to where he lived, and all of us, we had to go get tested and everything, and one of our players ended up having one of the boys ended up having tested positive, so they caught it early, and he was treated, and now he's fine. But it's not even needed. I mean, look, if Superstar Graham can go out there and say he's got Port Tampa hammers, and he's showing that big arm, and he's showing his back and his chest, he don't have to take a razor blade or something else or anything that they might use and do that. It's totally uncalled for. It's unhealthy. I don't want anybody bleeding on me because I think it's all bullshit.
So do you think it's something that really should be regulated? Because obviously this kind of stuff is still happening. Do you think wrestling is regulated some places, but do you think it should be regulated everywhere to avoid this kind of stuff happening to young wrestlers?
Yeah, I do. It does need to be regulated, yes. A lot of states, and especially Virginia, has had a no blood policy in the state of Virginia, even back when I was with WWE. The first sign of blood, whether it be somebody gets hit in the mouth, things are going to happen in the wrestling business. Things are going to happen in contact sports. And wrestling business is not just all entertainment. It is a contact sport where bodies are crashing against each other, or somebody throwing a forearm at somebody. A busted lip, blood comes out, the athletic commission comes in, and Virginia stops the match right away. They wouldn't care if it was Hogan, Triple H, Undertaker, the main event at WrestleMania. If it's in the state of Virginia, you won't ever see one of those big pay-per-views in Virginia. I can promise you that, because just of the risk factor. If it had been Triple H and Undertaker, and all of a sudden, or John Cena, and he gets a hit in the nose from a drop kick or a punch, and he starts to bleed, they stop the match. That's it. They're out of the ring. They're done. It's over. And should it be that stringent? I think maybe not that much, but as far as this gushing of the blood, I should say, out of somebody's forehead or somebody's arm or ear, I think regulation on that should be used, yeah.
So finally, you mentioned Jimmy Valiant catching hepatitis. Is there any other guys you know that have openly been known to having hepatitis, any of the older wrestlers other than Jimmy and Billy Graham?
Not really. Nobody's ever really stepped forward and said, I had it or I tested positive for it. It's very important. I mean, our health risk today is so much more than it was before. But none of the boys, it's kind of like the AIDS and the HIV. No one has really stepped forward in the wrestling business like Magic Johnson did in basketball, and I'd say, what is the word for it? Man up and say, I have this. I've tested positive. I'm going to remove myself from the league, or I'm not wrestling anymore. And they won't come forward. They won't. They're cowards.
And one guy did you ever hear about the story of Bob Orton Jr. who admits to having it, and WWE told him to bleed, and he bled all over the Undertaker, and there's a big scene?
I did hear that story. Yes, I did. And
Can you tell that story from what you heard about it?
I just know what you said. I didn't see it. That Bob was Bob's Jr. Bob Orton obviously had tested positive, and he might have. Did he know it or did he not know it? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've not talked to Bob about it, so I really can't say that, because Bob's a great guy in and out of the ring. If that was the case and he did it, then we do things because we're like sheep. We're like sheep, and the promoter tells us to line up and walk this way, and we walk that way, or talk this way, or stand this way, and we do things for a payday. If it would affect whether or not I can feed my family, would I step forward and say, I'm tested positive for something? I don't know if I would man up. Really, it's all about the payday. So was it wrong? Probably in reality, in real life. But you're dealing with professional wrestling, which is not reality. And it's not real life. And for that, we live in a fantasy world, and the fellas that we work with, we all are fantasy people. We're all some superheroes to everyone.
Devon, there's some truck went by on the first question about you as a wrestler. Do you mind just going over that one again?
Okay.
What do you think of Devon as a wrestler, and what do you think if Devon's contract had gone through, how good would he have done?
How good was Devon, or how good is Devon as a wrestler, and his WWE contract, if it had gone through, would he have done good there? Devon's a fantastic wrestler, great athlete. For a big guy, he's 260, 70 pounds, and looks great, moves really well in the ring, great athletic ability. He would have done very well in the WWE. I think he would have been a major player there because he's got a good interview. He's got a good look about him. He's a big guy. They're hurting for big guys there who can work with the bigger guys. That's one of the things that's missing now is these young fellows they're all, I've always said if you don't look better than your neighbor, you don't need to be out there with your shirt off in a wrestling ring and being a professional wrestler. And Devon obviously looks better than any neighbors that I have or anybody else. So I think he would have done very well there.
Okay. Is that it, Devon?
Yeah, that's all I have. Great job, Honky. Very good answers.
Okay, all I can do is be honest.
Well, it's something we want to address in the movie because it's a real issue that kind of needs to be put out there.
I really think that I'm surprised that the Canadians. Now, Canadians are more like health conscious about things than the Americans are, and Canadians are more, what could I say, conservative about a lot of things than Americans are in a lot of ways. And I would have thought the Canadian government would have stepped forward by now and said, look, we're not going to have, if the NBA, the NHL, the Major League Baseball, if they have this policy, then we're not going to have it in the circus. We're not going to have it for any entertainment business. We're just not going to have this stuff. The sad thing is this, and I was talking the other day when I was on tour. You see these guys nowadays, these kids, they go out and in these small independent shows that I work around the country and around the world, they go out, they have the blood, they're bleeding, they're blowing it. Hey, if I got my little daughter sitting in the front row, or my little son, or my wife, I don't want somebody that I've never seen before blowing blood all over the place and spitting that stuff out everywhere, and just this spitting it. I detest that. I just totally detest it. And I'm not the promoter. I can't run out there and beat the hell out of them, but I probably. But first of all, I wouldn't want to touch them when they're bleeding like that anyway. But I do tell them that this was absolute bullshit. You don't have to do that. It's just bullshit.
That's good.
But the reason why they don't is because they don't know it's real blood. That's it.
Oh gosh, I need to tell this story real quick. Devon just mentioned something about the people don't believe it's real blood anyway, and I was with my friend Rock and Roll Buck Zumhoff, who's a legend in the business out of Minneapolis and in different places, and we were talking about the same thing about the blood business, and he said he was in a match somewhere one night or at the show, and somebody had bled, and one of the fans walked over after the match was over, stuck their finger on the blood circle on the canvas, stuck it in their mouth and said, "Oh, that is real blood." Can you imagine that? I mean, but I understand we have to have fans, but the fans have to be a little bit more intelligent than just walk over and stick their finger and go, "Yeah, that's really blood."
That's disgusting.
It's disgusting, yeah. Is that it, Devon?
Yeah, that's it. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Support us on patreon.com for $1.99 a month to watch our full shoot interviews ad-free and help our channel grow. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for instant updates.